Welcome back to another episode of that Boat Babe podcast with your favorite boat babe here, MaryAllison. Today's episode is going to be camera free, unfortunately. If you have kept up with this podcast and you see that I have started doing videos, unfortunately, it might not be as consistent video wise as I like because sometimes, like today, I'm completely displaced from anything and access to the boat. And I don't have my camera and I don't have my microphone. And I am honestly sitting here like a little disheveled feeling in my pajamas on the houseboat. So, if you've caught up with last week's episode, you know that we have gone through some extra boat projects that were unexpected, and they have gone as smoothly as possible, I guess. But that leads into today's episode of how smoothly can your project end when it ends in a hydrolocked engine? I I kind of feel a little cursed, to tell you the truth. I feel a little overwhelmed. It has led into this mild cold that has been followed by major physical anxiety. I don't know if you are familiar with mental anxiety, like I am a little bit. I am actually now more familiar with physical anxiety, and that comes in the way of heart palpitations issues, and that has really been a struggle for me. It actually put me in the hospital last year during the refit. And it started back up when we got to the boatyard. And I think it's just my body's way of saying everything's out of whack. Your home is totally upside down. Like, thankfully, not actually upside down, but totally disheveled. And that has led to just I've honestly had to stop doing a lot of physical activity and instead shifted my focus more towards yoga again and really making myself sit and build the new That Boat Babe blog that I'm building, focus on being more consistent with podcasting. So honestly, I mean, I do believe everything, even if it looks like a curse, it always comes with a blessing because that's just the best way to take life, and that is really just how life really does play out a lot of times. So, yeah, today's episode is about hydrolocking our Yanmar engine and how to unhydrolock it, which I might not really be able to give the most detail about that here, but you can find that over on our YouTube channel, That Boat Babe. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe because I get the notification on my phone. So I can go ahead and give you a little hi, or if you comment, I will check the comment and we can chat there. If we're not friends on Instagram, what are you doing with your life? Go ahead and find us at That Boat Babe on Instagram. That's where we chat in the DMs a lot. I say we, and I mean me. I'm always chatting in the DMs with people. I've got so many of y'all commenting on the projects that are being worked on and giving suggestions or asking questions or talking about how you've had to encounter the same issues. So that's always fun. I mean, the whole point of this podcast and the whole point of the new blog that I'm creating and now the YouTube channel is just to continue to expand this boating and sailing community because I swear, like the people and the friends that I've made through Instagram. And if you're older and you're not as gung ho about social media and you're maybe not as familiar with Instagram and maybe you're more of a Facebook person and keeping up with family, well, my family is now extended through the Instagram family and the sailing community here because it's the best way for me to be able to keep up with so many different people that love the same thing and have the same passion for boats. So I absolutely love the Instagram sailing community. I am branching out into the YouTube community, which is always fun. The podcasting community is very slim, and I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to be a top contributor to the podcasting platform. Um, right now, it is still, I don't know, it's growing at a rapid pace, but you don't really make money on a podcast, but speaking is one of my favorite things. Speaking and writing. Those are my passions. I actually really do love being on camera as well. So that's a fun way to tap into to the YouTube aspect. And if you followed me on Instagram, you'll probably see that because I'm constantly doing selfie videos of doing things. But anyway, let's tap into today's episode and how this even happened, you guys. So, if you are familiar with engines, you know that when you sink an engine, you don't ever start it, right? So, just picture that. We accidentally sunk our engine above water, I guess. And if you listen to last week's episode, I tried to kind of lead into this episode after telling y'all about all the projects that we had to do in the yard. And that ended with replacing the drive shaft seal on our sailboat. So we replaced it with a glide system seal. The seal that we had before was a PSS seal. And if you look at a dripless seal, you'll see that for the most part, I haven't done a ton of research on any other seals. I haven't really wanted to. I'm kind of glad I'm past that. But your drive shaft seal can be plumbed. You can have a hose that connects to your exhaust uh, intake, which cools your engine, and it will also cool your drive shaft seal. So, like I said in the previous episode, the previous yard, I guess, that had installed the PSS seal, which I think it was ready. It was ready to be replaced. But it was installed, I think, in 2000, I want to say 2016 or 2019, and right now it's 2024. So that thing or 2024, you know what I mean? Whatever. You know what year it is. It's 24. It was installed in 16 or 19. So it's definitely run its life, but for what it wasn't terrible. And as so we thought. So they hadn't plumbed any water into it like it had the option to do. I don't know if they were lazy, didn't feel like it. Maybe they were like, "Oh, you don't run at a crazy high RPM," which honestly, what is a really high RPM? Because technically I should be running at about what was it? 20 Oh, I'm going to say around 3,000 RPMs. I just looked at the chart for our Yanmar for what would be the most efficient RPM to run. And I thought it was about 2,500 RPMs. I think it's around 3,000 RPMs. I think it can go up to about 3,200 RPMs. So I don't know. That sounds like a pretty high RPM to me. Why wouldn't you plumb the freaking hose in there already? So we replaced the PSS seal with the glide system seal. It's I really like it. I like how it looks. I think it looks very, I don't know, it just has a more newer look. Um it looks cleaner, and obviously it's new. And it came plumbed with the hose already on it so you could plumb it into your exhaust. We also like this glide seal because it can be changed out while you're still in the water. It has a spare seal on it. Let's just say you're like, oh crap, I need to replace it. The time has come. We're not even close to a yard. I'm not hauling out for another 6 months. Whatever the issue is, it can be replaced while you're still in the water. So that was a huge perk. And um, Brandon Hall at Pensacola Shipyard, which is not Pensacola Shipyard anymore, it's Pensacola Marine Center. he actually really likes the Glide Seal system a lot better, so we just went ahead and went with that. I don't even remember it being crazy expensive. The shipping time was like no time, so win all the way around. So when we plumbed this in, if you read the directions and you talk to a professional, they say plumb the hose in on the other side of the vent loop. So to figure out what that means, and that is not the actual like wording, I don't think, in the directions, but that's basically what it said. So instead of tracing what that actually means, my dear husband, who's a pilot, not 100% familiar with lots of systems on boats, but my God, that man knows every system on an airplane like with his eyes shut. He could he could do it all on a plane. But then you come to the boats, it is different. It's a different animal. It's also a different passion. His passion is airplanes. My passion is boats. So unfortunately, during these projects, so much of it was a one person job. I've done 90% of the projects on this boat, probably 95%. And I've done them mostly alone because he's been a pilot and he's never here. Well, since we have now ventured out to move back down island, all of the career stuff has changed. He's here a whole lot more, it's been wonderful. It's just been different because I have such a dominating personality. I dominate this field. I also am the leader of the house, really. I'm the one that I do everything. Especially because he's been gone so much. Now that he's here, it's a little hard to say, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do this, and then him say, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's just we're now having to delegate tasks that kind of came naturally instead of like I don't know, it being a one woman show all the time. So he was plumbing in this seal and asked one of the guys in the yard, oh, is it this exhaust hose? And the guy just said, oh, yeah, that one. Mind you, the guy wasn't getting paid. He has absolutely nothing invested in our boat. He's not going on this trip. He could care less. It probably was like 4 o'clock and he was leaving. So Seth, bless his heart, plumbed in our glide system seal on this side of the vent loop, and this side meaning the aft on the way that our engine is set up before the vent loop, basically. And instead of asking me or taking an extra 30 seconds to say, oh, wait, what does it mean? So I'm going to explain to you what it means to be on the other side of the vent loop. If anybody says that, this is what it means. So you've got your through hull. And well, first of all, let's go to your engine. You've got lots of hoses going on. You have water coming in from, obviously, it's seawater. It's going through your engine. So basically, if you're not exactly sure what seacock, your engine seacock is, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. You've got exhaust hoses coming out of your engine that are going up to a vent loop, down the vent loop, and it goes to a seacock. So when you close that seacock, water is not able to come in. When you open that seacock, water flows and it can come through continuously. And then it goes through your engine and right back out a through hull. So if you're going to start at the seacock, you're going to trace from that seacock. It's going to go to your engine. It's going to go through the engine, just like I said, up the vent loop, down the vent loop, and back out of your boat. So, and I'm going to double check that I said that right because I'm trying to actually picture it on ours. Yes, it goes in through the engine, up the vent loop. Yeah, wait, in through the engine, up the vent loop, because ours kind of does like twist down and out. I'm not looking at it right now. I'm 100%, I'm like 90% sure that's accurate. So what you want to do is you want to plumb in on the other side of the vent loop, meaning when you're not running your engine, water can't go up that vent loop, which is above the water line, and back to your engine. Well, so unfortunately, my husband plumbed it in on this side, meaning water, because the seacock is always open. I don't ever close it, honestly. Um, when we turned the engine off, water was continuously filling the engine, and when it sits and you have water able to go through that little tiny hose, which is connected to the drive shaft seal. So water's connected to the drive shaft seal, water's connected to that intake. Water just continuously filled our engine. And while you're underway, this isn't a problem. Let's say you can get your engine started, because that's what happened. We actually were able to go in the slings. We were going into the water. I started the engine. It started perfectly. I turned it back off, and then I started it again, and it was not happy. And I'm like, this is weird. My engine always starts just fine. It's total, like, it's never has an issue. So I got it started. We backed out and turned it off for a while more. Well, then I had a really hard time starting it the third time. But we thought, like, maybe it's because it's got 3,000 X amount of hours on it. Maybe it needs to be blown out. Like, we just weren't really sure. And unfortunately, I did not listen to my intuition. I trusted my husband and I trusted the guys in the yard, and I should have went with my intuition, and I should have gone down, and we should have traced that hose to make sure we did it on the right hose. But this was also an area where I was kind of clueless about. It was something that I never ventured in. I never did a lot of mechanical work. I've done tons of plumbing and tons of stuff, so I should have known. But honestly, I put a lot of trust and a lot of faith in him, because a lot of times I do believe that we come across that we like making it look like we know a lot more than we do. And unfortunately, I do think, not to put him under the bus, I do think I put a lot of trust in him because I was already really overwhelmed. So we are underway. Everything's fine. The engine's running great. We decide to go back to Pirates Cove because we didn't have a really great weather window to head back offshore. Go back to Pirates Cove. We wait 2 days to let the weather clear. Everything's ready to go. Trucks are gone. We don't have a ride. Groceries are filled. Water tank's full. The engine won't start, and it won't start hard. It basically did the big knock that no engine owner wants to hear, and it was dead. So we pick up the phone and call Brandon, and all I can hear on the other end of the phone is him yelling. He's- because he's very angry that this happened. I mean, he saw the work that we put into doing what we did, and for us to make this mistake was huge. So I decided we are not going to call him again for suggestions, because I already feel like a complete idiot. He's given us enough time. He's given us enough suggestions. I couldn't believe this happened. So we picked up the phone and called our best friends, Peter and Jody. You can find them on Instagram at Where the Coconuts Grow. Her blog is a wonderful blog. I don't think she's updated it in a long time, but if it's still posted, her blog is like a cruiser's encyclopedia. She's got every ounce of information you ever need about cruising. So go ahead and check her out. So Peter works for he's a catamaran broker, and he works for a catamaran company. And I think he was doing a lot of charter upkeep, like maintenance stuff. So he's super knowledgeable about a lot. They live in St. Thomas right now with their 2 kids. And I picked up the phone and called Peter, and I was so blessed to have him as a friend, because he was able to really help us figure out how to go about taking everything apart to the extent where we didn't have to take the head off. So basically, the first thing that we did was we did 4 oil changes and got about 2.5 gallons of water out the first time. probably about, I don't know, half a gallon out the next time, and then so on and so on. And this is actually a Seth thing. He did this in the middle of the night, poor thing. So if you're actually watching our YouTube video about this, he looks exhausted and he looks loopy. But he got the engine to the point after the oil changes and after taking off the cylinder caps. That's not the technical term, but getting access to the cylinders and sucking out as much water as he could. He was able to. I'm speeding this up, but he was able to hand crank the engine to the point where finally he was able to actually feel confident enough to try to start it again. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, sleeping in the V berth with the kids, and it started. I remember the feeling now. It's crazy. I mean, it was probably 1 a.m. No, I think it was around midnight, and he got it started. So it was a big hallelujah moment. We saved the engine. We thought this was going to be a situation where it was going to be some kind of an insurance claim or sell our Hummer to buy a new engine. And so we got it started, which was miraculous. And during some of the maintenance, which if I'm not really going to technically be able to go into a lot of these details because I just don't have the knowledge, but you got crush washers or copper washers on your engine cylinders. And this is what he's taken off to be able to access the cylinders. So Seth was changing out the crush washers on the cylinders, and he used a tiny tool with a stainless needle nose like tip on it to replace those crush washers. And in doing that, one of the tools broke off into a cylinder. And if you know engines, you know this is now we're on the decline again. We're going way down real fast. So this is number 2 on our part. I wish I was there. I think this was again in the middle of the night, another night. I was very overwhelmed as the head of the household, taking care of the kids, making food, keeping things clean, trying to maintain my sanity, also while having major physical anxiety and trying to figure out what our weather window was going to be again. I mean, it was a lot. And I wasn't there to help with this project. I wasn't as involved as I wish I would have been. Seth assumed since he couldn't see the metal in the cylinder that maybe it wasn't in there, and he went ahead and put everything back together and started the engine. So this turned into disaster number 2. You could hear the metal in the cylinder destroying the cylinder, and you could hear it after a while going to different parts of the engine. And even talking about it's like heartbreaking for a boat owner, and even just for even an engine mechanic. You're like, holy shit, how much do you want to destroy your boat? Like, how fast do you want to destroy your trip? I mean, it's heartbreaking that this happened. And that leads to the next episode, which is going to be, is your relationship ready for boat ownership? Is your relationship ready for boat ownership and traveling off into the distance and trying to live out your dreams down island? So right now I have the head of our engine in my daughter's bed, completely taken apart. We reached out to a friend in Canada named Mark, who we just adore. He is going to eventually move back down to Tortola, but and I can't wait because he's such a great resource, especially for stuff like this. But He was able to talk Seth through removing the head of the engine. It is completely taken apart. And for me, it is very hard. This has been very hard. It's been it's been a struggle. I haven't been nice through this. I haven't been happy. I've been questioning everything lately. I've been wondering how this happened. I've been wondering where I was during these projects. And I think I take a lot of responsibility because this is my boat. I mean, this has been our home. This has been such a passion of mine that I'm wondering how I missed these two things. So tune in next week as we uncover whether we can get the engine put back together. We are waiting for gaskets right now and parts to arrive in the mail. Also, in the midst of all of this, I finally had a break to sit on the couch and enjoy coffee. Seth and I had about 30 seconds of a conversation in, and I said, "What is that noise?" And he looked down, and the bilge was full of water. So we spent about 2 hours trying to trace that. And in next week's episode, along with if your relationship is going to survive life on the water, I'm going to let you know where that water was coming from. And that is the reason why we are now living on the houseboat for a couple days. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope this has not discouraged you enough to want to sell your boat and move back into a house. But I'm just letting you know that we can get through tough things together, can't we? I'm really glad that you're here with me on this podcast. Go ahead and find me at that boat babe on Instagram and let's be friends. Share this with any boat mechanic that you have and let them know how crazy it really is to be an owner of a boat. Let them know that there is a girl out there who actually does love these things. So if you've got a single guy out there and they are looking for a boater like myself or some chick that loves boats, I promise we are few and far between, but we do exist. I am just taken. So go ahead and find us on YouTube as well. Most of those videos are DIY because I love creating videos around things that I actually have a hard time finding a video about. I have added a little bit of family stuff in there, take it or leave it. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I can't wait to talk to you next week. And happy cruising, happy sailing, and I can't wait to share an anchorage with you. I can't wait to talk to you soon. I love you. Bye.